Hello everyone, Pem here, coming to you almost live from the fire trap. This is the beginning of my 500 subscriber Q&A celebration. We are here inside the game Oblivion. This is, let's see if I can show him to you. This is my character. His name is Melancon. He is a dark elf, and he is right outside the city of Coral, which you can see is only half rendered over there because, well, I'm not in that cell, and it looks kind of weird. Yes, he is TCLing right now, so I thought it was more important that I gave you guys a good view. But that's him. He's the hero of Kvatch and everything else. So yeah, that's the Imperial City off there in the distance, which keeps coming in and out of the fog over there. Right. So 500 subscribers. It was a big deal for me because I've had this channel since April. It's August now, so end of August, almost September. So it's been quite a few months, and I've had 2 Let's Plays now, and finally gotten up to 500 subscribers, and I thought I'd do a special occasion type of thing, and I know that question and answer sessions are pretty normal among YouTubers, especially Let's Players. So I thought this would be kind of cool to do. So anyway, cheers to everyone for the 500 subscriptions. I appreciate the views and the likes and the subscriptions and everything else. So here's to you guys. Thank you. Yes, I am drinking. Okay. Let's get to it, shall we? Let's see. Oh, before I get started, I can't guarantee that there won't be interruptions to this video because, of course, real life intervenes. You can't help but do. But I will try to minimize them, and I hopefully will be able to edit this video when I present it so that its interruptions are minimally noticeable. Right. So our first question, user Megatron Gameplay asks, or says rather, congrats on the 500 subs. Thank you. Well deserved indeed. Thank you. Have you thought about putting together a montage of all your death scenes once you reach a certain part in the series? I think it would be fun and entertaining. Yes, I have, and that would be pretty cool, and it would be probably pretty fun and entertaining to watch. Not so much fun and entertaining to make, because I've died a lot in the Skyrim Let's Play, and I would probably die many, many more times. I like watching blooper reels, generally, myself, and, you know, of other people's as well, but I only have a terabyte hard drive that I'm saving all my videos to, so I'm actually not able to keep them on my computer for very long. Basically, once I upload them to YouTube, I have to get rid of them. So in order to make a best of clip or you know, anything like that, I'd have to basically re-download all my videos off of YouTube, which is just a mess. So no, I'm sorry, but we probably will not be seeing a best of or a highlight clip or a montage of death scenes, unfortunately. Let's see. User Stinky Barnaby says, if an evil, mangy mage captured you and told you he was going to turn you into a vegetable because he's had a bad day, but is kind enough to ask you which vegetable you would prefer to be, what would you choose and why? Also, you should probably know you will most likely be added to the mage's evening meal. Congrats on 500. Thank you. Well, I don't like very much the idea of being turned into a vegetable, and I don't like that I don't have a choice in the matter, as far as whether it happens or not. But he is letting me choose which one I want to be, which I guess is a consolation. I don't know. And since I know that I will most probably be eaten once I've transformed into a vegetable, I'm going to be kind of a pain in the ass, and I'm going to pick something that will be sure to give him some discomfort, because I don't like being eaten. I would probably pick cabbage, just because for me personally that is a vegetable that gives me quite a lot of intestinal discomfort. So, interesting question, Sneaky Barnaby, thank you. But that's my answer, cabbage. And I'll hope for flatulence on the way out. Let's see, user Joshua Cathcart says, I loved the Age of Empires 3 music in the 500 subs video. Question, Questions, plural. What is your favorite game slash console slash series, and what game are you looking forward to coming out most? That's a good question. I'd say my favorite console, I don't play console games much anymore, but my favorite console is probably the PlayStation 2. That's the one that I had for the longest period of time. It was the first console that I ever bought for myself. Favorite game? That's a tough one. I don't know. I'm not much of a favorite type of person. Like, if you ask me what my favorite color or movie or band or something like that is, I'm not going to be able to give you a one-item answer. I just don't think about things in those terms, I guess. But, I mean, I role-playing games, strategy games, those are my two favorite genres, so if I had to pick a favorite game, I'd probably say something in those realms. Favorite series of games? The Elder Scrolls is up there. Age of Empires is up there. But I probably have to say the one that I've had the most fun with, and for the longest period of time, is probably Civilization. I've played everything from Civ 1 all the way up to Civ 5, and I have a lot of fond memories of playing Civ 1 and 2 on LAN with friends of mine in grade school and in high school. That was back when you actually had to carry like an entire desktop PC over to somebody else's house and set it up to play a LAN game. Before laptops were really a thing. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with playing Civ with friends. We also played on LAN. We played Scorched Earth. That was another game that we'd set up to play. And then a little bit later on, we played Unreal, which was pretty awesome too. But that's I'd say favorite series, probably Civilization. Let's see. Moving on. Speaking of, Joshua Cathcart, the Age of Empires 3 music, I did add that to my Skyrim personalized music playlist, so hopefully that will be appearing in an upcoming video. I thought that I'd added it at first, but apparently I missed it because it hasn't appeared in any videos through part 52-ish or so. But it should be appearing going forward. Let's see. Next up, question from Little Buscus. Congratulations, Pem. Thank you. Why was it that you first started to LP games in general? That's a very good question. There's a couple of reasons. The first is that my favorite part of video games, my favorite part of playing video games was always playing with somebody else. I've always had way more fun playing a game playing it with somebody else. And I also always enjoyed very much watching other people play games. There'd be times like with my roommates where instead of just playing a game, I would actually sit and watch them play a game for sometimes hours at a time, and we'd both be sitting there just talking shit about the game or telling jokes about it or commenting on it, and it was always just a lot of fun. So that was a big source of enjoyment for me for gaming. Way more than just playing the game myself, was playing it with somebody else or watching somebody else play. So for the longest time, that's what I got the most enjoyment out of gaming. And then I didn't know that Let's Playing was a thing, actually, until I encountered some videos. Oh, I remember what it was. I bought the game Crusader Kings 2, which was my first Paradox game that I ever owned. And when I started playing it, I realized I have no idea what the hell I'm doing in this game, as anybody who has played a Paradox game would know. So I started looking up on YouTube, like, how do you play this game? And I found a user named CKM, who, he doesn't do Let's Plays, per se. He does, it's called a Crusader Kings 2 Guide for Newbies, which was really handy for me to watch. But through seeing his videos, I encountered Let's Plays. The recommended videos were of Let's Players doing different games, and that's when I first realized that there was a community like this. So you can understand, given when Crusader Kings 2 came out, which I think was like 2011 maybe. So it was only like 2 or so years ago that I even realized Let's Playing was a community that existed. But of course, once I found it, I fell in love with it. It was amazing. I didn't realize that there were people out there who did this. And they do exactly what it was that I enjoyed about gaming the most. So after seeing CKM and getting a couple different recommendations on YouTube, I encountered Let's Players like Zemalf and Jingles and Variax and Squee and Inferno and I mean the list goes on and on. And seeing them do it, I thought, wow, this looks like a lot of fun. And you know, I had the system that could handle it for the most part. I had to upgrade a couple things. And I really like to hear myself talk. So I figured, hey, you know what? I'm well cut out for this. Let's give it a shot and see what we do. And so my first game that I wanted to try, I wanted to jump into an Elder Scrolls game right away. But I had gotten some advice that the first LP you do should be a game that you like, but that you don't really care so much whether the LP, you know, how the LP turns out, because you're going to learn a lot of things while you do it. You'll make a lot of mistakes. So I was like, yeah, you know, that's a good point. So I'll pick a game that I really like, but that I don't really care so much how the LP turns out. So as anybody who's viewed my channel before would know, my first LP was of Let's Play MechWarrior 3, which I don't blame you for not watching, because it's not, you know, such an exciting game to LP, but it served its purpose well for me, which was that I got to play a game that I like, and I got to do it in a short amount of time. I think it ended up being 25 videos, 20 minutes apiece. And it set me up well, I think, for going forward, and taught me a lot about what I need to do something larger, and how best to, yeah, you know, just how best to set up the system, how best to get things prepped, and what I needed to avoid in an LP so that I wasn't bogging things down or making things repetitive or stupid. So that's, in a very long, roundabout way, my answer to your question there, Little Buskus. The next question was actually asked by a couple different people. It was asked first by Zemalf, who asked, number 1, what is your gamer history? Parenthetically, what games you've enjoyed, what systems you've played on. And number 2, how did you come up with your user channel name? And then user the undefined one, whose username I really think is pretty cool, asked something very similar. For about a week and a half after subbing to you, I thought your name said Pernulesian, so why is your name Pemulesian anyway? Right, so gamer history, I'll tackle that first. Like I said, in my MechWarrior 3 Let's Play, I had no idea what I was doing. And so in my third video, I think it's part 3 on that playlist, I went on for about 20 minutes about what kind of video games I played growing up, and what I like about video games, and basically I went through like an entire history of my gaming pedigree, thinking that, okay, you know what, they've watched the first 2 videos of this Let's Play, now I'll tell them a little bit about myself so that, you know, going forward they know who they're dealing with here. 20 minutes is obviously way too long to spend on that kind of thing, and I regret making that video, but it's there. So if you really want to know about my gaming history or my pedigree, I would recommend that you check out part 3 of my Let's Play MechWarrior 3 playlist. I think the episode is titled Because You Care, because I realized after watching the video, I was like, nobody's going to want to sit through this damn thing. It's ridiculous. But to give you a brief synopsis of that video, I grew up on PC games. I did not have a Nintendo or a Sega or anything like that when I was growing up. I was born in '81, to give you a frame of reference, some context for where I'm coming from here from a gaming perspective. So I didn't have anything growing up, any consoles growing up. I played on friends' consoles when I was really young, you know, like over at their houses and things like that. So, you know, I wasn't a stranger to games like Mario and Excitebike and Sonic and stuff like that. Mortal Kombat, that kind of thing. But I never had them on my own to play with them as much as I wanted to. So yeah, when I was a kid, we had a PC, and the very first game I remember playing was a game called Zork, which maybe some of you older fans would recognize. It's a text-based adventure game, which was a lot of fun for me to play. And then, you know, early games I played were like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was impossible, and I'm trying to think what else. SimCity was a really early one. I played some flight combat simulators like Their Finest Hour, The Battle of Britain, and Battlehawks 1942, and Secret Weapons of the Luftwaffe. Those 3 were all games from Lucasfilm. And then when I was a teenager, my parents got a new PC that had a CD-ROM, which was a huge deal, and that was the first time that I played CD-ROM games, like Lords of the Realm 2 was the one that I played a lot, and Caesar 2, like a bunch of Sierra games. And then I didn't get my first console until I was moved away to college, actually, which was a PS2, and I played on the PS2. Honestly, as I say in the MechWarrior 3 video, I spent way too much time as a teenager and in college playing sports video games, baseball and hockey especially, and that kind of kept me from spending time playing games that I enjoy playing now, like the Elder Scrolls games, for instance, or I don't know, role-playing and strategy games. I mentioned that I played some strategy games with my friends, like Civilization and stuff like that, but it was only when I got a new PC after I graduated from college, when I actually had some money to spend, that I was able to afford a system that could actually play the kind of games that I wanted. So I was able to go back over the last 10 years or so and play games that I'd wanted to play all that time, but just didn't have the system to play. But yeah, anyway, so that's where I'm coming from a gaming perspective. My pedigree is not all that hot, which is part of the reason why my channel is called Pem the Loathsome Casual, because I don't actually have. I would wager that everybody that's listening to this video right now has probably played more video games in terms of variety and in terms of hours than I have. So let's see. Gamer history. Boy, that was a long time I took to answer that question. How did I come up with my username, channel name? Yeah, so Pemulesian, right? That's a strange name. And the reason I go by Pem for short is because I know that name is hard to pronounce, so I don't try to use it. But it comes from, I started this, I created my YouTube username back in 2010. And at the time that I created it, I was reading a book by David Foster Wallace called Infinite Jest, which I'm sure some of you have probably heard of, some of you have read it. And in that book, there's a character called Michael Pemulus. And he's kind of a Joker-ish type of character, kind of a clown, and kind of an anti-authoritarian, and disrespectful, but also very funny, and like good sense of humor. I really enjoyed Infinite Jest when I read it. I thought it was a great book. My opinion of it has kind of changed somewhat since then. I don't care for it as much as I did the first time that I read it. But that's just kind of my opinion of David Foster Wallace in general. I think he's a great writer, but it just seems like he tries too hard sometimes. Like he just needs to kind of, I don't know, like he gets kind of inside his own head too much a little bit. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I really enjoyed the character of Michael Pemulus when I read that book, and it just so happened that I was reading that book as I created this YouTube username. So I thought of myself like, hey, you know what? I can't think of a username that I would otherwise use, so here we go, Pemulesian, right? Like Pemulus. That's what I was intending to go for. And like I said, I recognize it's unpronounceable or very difficult to pronounce, hence why I use Pem as a shorthand, which I think I actually like more than the full username. And I explained the loathsome casual thing part, I think, already. Let's see. User Iflia says, congrats. And that's it. He or she doesn't have a question. So thank you, Iflia. I appreciate it. User Stesis the Great says, are you a fan of Tolkien? If so, Lord of the Rings / Hobbit or the Silmarillion? First, I didn't realize you had to choose one or the other. I am a fan of Tolkien, yes, and I'm a fan of all of it. I first read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings when I was, I think, 11 years old was the first time I read it. I read The Silmarillion probably the first time when I was 13 or 14, and every 2 or 3 years since then, I've read all those books over again. I read the series every 2 or 3 years just because I love it so much, and it's always really nice to revisit. If I had to pick one of those books, or one of the sets that I like the most, I would say I probably like the Silmarillion most. And the reason why I like it the most is actually one of the reasons why I really like the Elder Scrolls too. Is It's fantastic world building. Mythology has always been one of my favorite things to read since I was a little kid. I loved reading. I read Greek myths. When I read Edith Hamilton's Mythology, which is basically just a compilation of Greek myths for adults. It's for college students. I read it, I think, the first time when I was 8 or 9, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved that there were gods for individual things that had individual spheres that they controlled, and it was really elemental and really kind of Jungian in its archetypes, and it just seemed like such a perfect world to me, the way that it was created, and it hooked me on mythology of all types. So I've read all kinds of Norse myths, I've read Egyptian myths, I've read Native American myths, I've read, myths and stories from the Far East, and Indian and everything. So I soak it up whenever I can, and ever since then, really good world creation has always appealed to me, whether it's in a story, like The Lord of the Rings, or whether it's in a game, like The Elder Scrolls. One of the reasons I love The Elder Scrolls so much is because the world is so deep and so varied and so well made that you could just get lost in it forever. I actually, after I realized just how great the Elder Scrolls were as a game series, I went onto the Imperial Library website and I copied and pasted each book into a Word document, and then I printed all those out. I made the font super small and printed them out like 4 sheets to a page, and then I would read it on the bus or on the train to and from work every day, just because I love the lore so much. And something that when you're reading the games, you're like, or when you're playing the games, you're like, I should read these books. But when you're playing the games, it's kind of hard to take the time to pause the game and read. So I thought, I should read these books, but I don't want to read them while I'm playing. So making my own book out of them and then printing it was actually a really good way to do it. So if any of you are interested, I still have the Word doc. I've saved it as a PDF as well. If any of you are interested, shoot me a comment or a private message, and I can send you an email with it, or maybe I could post it to a website that you guys could download it from if you want that PDF. It's something like 1,000 pages, so it's pretty big, but it's got, I want to say it's got all the books from Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, excluding the Dragonborn DLC, because I don't think that was out when I did this. But yeah, it's got pretty much everything in it. Let's see. So yeah, I am a fan of Tolkien, especially a fan of the Silmarillion. I read it all the time, and I love the myths and stories in it. I am a fan of the films as well. I was really skeptical when it was announced that the films were being made, that they would be able to adapt them properly for the screen. And obviously there's a lot of things that Peter Jackson changed or edited out. But I have to say, I think he did, there's no question he did a fantastic job with the Lord of the Rings films, at least. I've not yet seen The Hobbit, so shame on me. I've not yet seen the first Hobbit film. But yeah, I don't think you can fault Jackson at all. Like, it's even the things that he changed, I think actually made the story better. I think that he actually maybe, if Tolkien had an editor like Jackson, the books may have been even better. He got rid of some elements that didn't really work, like Bombadil, and he added some things that I think made the characterization and the story a little bit more meaningful. I don't know. Maybe that's anathema to true Tolkien fans, but it seems true to me. I think the films are fantastic, and it would be hard to argue that they don't at least equal the books. Let's see.